Hello and welcome back to Sly 2. I think it's a logical and good idea to just get the bottles out of the way as soon as possible. And then at the end of the episode we're also gonna get the 3 treasures you can find around here. Now just like with Paris, I recommend paying at least some attention to the screen, because for the sake of efficiency I'm not going to be showing all my traversing around the area and exploring to find new missions and things. So this is the best time to get to know and get a good feel of the area we're in. Now in order to keep this collecting from being far too stale, I have a few things I'd like to talk about. Namely, version differences. I've stated already before that the PS3 re-release is the exact same game as the PS2 one, just with a better visual representation. And that's for the most part true. I still stand by it, in the sense that you won't exactly have a vastly different experience playing the PS3 version, aside from again the nicer visuals. But there are these minor differences. So, for example, in the gadget grid, Sly has a different portrait in this game for some reason. I think the portrait in the PS3 version is taken from Sly 3, which would explain why it wasn't in the PS2 version, but I don't really get why they changed it. It doesn't really look any worse or better. It's just kinda a different photo. I don't know, whatever. There's also another somewhat minor difference that I really don't understand. Because after you beat Dimitri, and Sly talks about taking the gang on vacation and having an alright time before the next heist and all, in the PS2 version they're shown playing cards. And they just aren't in the PS3 version. I haven't found any info on why this was changed. My immediate thought was, oh, cards mean gambling, so they can't show that. But honestly, that's bullshit, because this is also a series that has guns and people dying, and I think Dimitri uses the word sexy at one point. So I find it hard to believe that they're removed for censoring purposes. And if that's not the case, then I can't really imagine what would be the reason, so it's probably no reason at all. There's another thing that's removed in the PS3 version that I actually never knew existed at all. Apparently in the original PS2 version, not in the PS3 even though it makes no sense that they would remove it, you can plug in a USB microphone and talk into it to distract guards. It's a really cool idea, and I see no reason why it would be removed. It's not like it's impossible to plug in a USB microphone in a PS3. I mean, I wasn't even aware that you could do that in a PS2, but I guess you have SingStar and things, so that would explain it. Now, the last thing I'd like to touch on is the Wave of the Future itself. Now, I don't mean motion controls, and I don't mean portability, but of course, 3D. In the PS2 version of Sly 3, and it might sound like I'm getting ahead of myself, but this is relevant, there were certain select missions that you could actually play in 3D. This honestly wasn't anything special. It was the old kinda red and blue 3D stuff, but all copies of Sly 3 actually came with these really cool 3D glasses shaped like Sly's mask. So there was no reason not to at least try it, and not only that, it's completely optional. You get a prompt and you can turn it on and off at any time. The reason I'm mentioning this now is because if you buy the Sly collection, you don't get any 3D glasses. The only way to get those is to buy the PS2 game. So your first thought is probably, well, they probably just removed it. It was optional after all, they wouldn't be difficult to just get rid of. Actually, no. Because if you look at the cover of the game, it says 3D compatible. And here's the thing, the reason this is relevant now is because it's not just exclusive to certain missions in Sly 3. All the games in the Sly collection are actually fully playable in stereoscopic 3D. The catch is you need to have a 3D TV. And I think even if I had a 3D TV, there would be no way for me to show this. I don't really know how this works, but what I do know is that I've found no documentation online of people showing their games being played in 3D. Either people just don't own 3D TVs, I admit I wasn't fully aware that that was a thing that existed, or it's just something that's not really possible to show without being actually there with the TV itself. I think that's the more likely reason. But that's all the bottles collected. It's still gonna be a little while until we can get our prize for this. So in the meantime, I say we put Murray a bit in the spotlight.
That chopper is a menace to all future aerial operations while on this job.
Yeah, it's all covered in missiles and guns and stuff.
Now be a team player and take it out with that rusty pre-war turret.
Okay, I had a potato gun once. I'll bet it works just the same.
Murray's always a team player. I don't think that's a thing to have any worries about.
Hit buttons fast to keep your strength up.
I can't say I understand why we have to do this now, since we haven't had to do so before when Murray's been lifting things. I guess it's because we're controlling him now, but just smash a button, and he'll lift. Only for then him himself to be lifted, and...
Use the left analog stick to aim, and hold down the R1 button to fire. But be careful. If you continue firing for too long, the gun will overheat, and you'll have to wait for it to cool down. Try getting a shot off on that chopper.
Introducing a new... Bentley, quiet! Introducing a new game mechanic. As Bentley explained over my obnoxiously loud shooting, we need to take down the helicopter but watch out for a gun not to overheat. I say watch out, but it's really not that big of a deal. If your gun overheats, it takes like a second to recharge. It honestly doesn't even feel any longer to have to wait for it to recharge than to just stop firing for a second. It feels almost like there's no difference at all, so really just knock yourself out. There's nothing to worry about in all honesty. Except the missiles, of course, you want to shoot those and not get hit by them. But that should be no trouble at all. The aim and the hitboxes and everything are very forgiving. Even I, who is typically fairly shit at things like this, have no trouble in the slightest, as you can clearly see. By the way, can I just say, Carmelita, you can eat a bun. This shit is not hard. If I can hit this flying, moving fucking helicopter shooting missiles towards me, then you, as a trained and very dedicated policewoman, should be able to hit one silly little raccoon. No, but anyway, this is almost over. This game really likes to vary up the gameplay a lot, and I really appreciate the effort. Just don't really think this is the best example of it. But hey, and on a positive note, we're done!
The Murray Triumphant!
Good work. The sky's all clear.
You know, except for the clouds, of course, but hey, we did it! Now, the last thing we're gonna do today is to collect some treasure so we can get enough money for the final move we haven't bought yet. You probably have seen most of these treasures... Why didn't he double jump when I told him to? You've probably seen most of these treasures already as we ran around collecting the bottles, because a lot of them are just kinda in the same place for some reason. I don't know, they don't really always get their own hiding spots, but whatever, I guess that's fine. This treasure is the first example of booby trap treasures, where you need to get them back to the safe house within a certain amount of time. Otherwise they're gonna expire or something. What happens when the timer runs out is just as if you were to get hit by an enemy. Not that these timers are nothing like the Thieves sprints in the first game, though. They don't... They're forgiving, to say the least. Now, most of these treasures, like this one, you can only reach with Sly. But if you for some reason are curious, you are theoretically able to carry treasures with the other characters, so long as it's one that they're able to reach. So this treasure is an example of one that Murray can get. He carries it on his back and there's nothing different at all. His scarf is going crazy for some reason, but maybe it always does that, I don't know. I haven't really paid attention to that. It's at the very end of this area that's across the big bridge. So it's very easy to find. It's in a very distinct and remote location. As I said, this game has a lot of different places with a lot of variety and distinctions to them. So that finding your way through looking... What I'm trying to say is that finding your way by looking for landmarks and things of interest is an excellent way to get around and works really well in this game. Now that is the final treasure. There's 3 treasures to get. They are the Ming vase, the ancestral kite, and the thing that I just... the thing that I just saw. The thing that was timed under the waterfall. The, burial urn, I think it's called? Anyway, with that, next time we're gonna go ahead and dance party the ballroom up, or something like that. I was hoping the name would give me a better sentence to work with, but it didn't. Regardless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you then.